In part 2 of our series, we're going to look at abilities and bonuses. Now, abilities are the basic numbers that we're used to seeing in a lot of role-playing games. Your strength, dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, constitution, and charisma. So let's talk about what that actually means in 5e. Strength is going to be the primary ability for most of your melee classes. It's going to define how well you can hit somebody, your attack roll, and how hard you hit them with martial weapons. It's also going to define how much you can carry, the likelihood somebody can shove you, or that you can shove someone else, and anything that requires an athletic skill check. Dexterity is the primary stat for your finesse classes. It is, in my opinion, one of the most important skills in the game. First, it helps you with initiative, which is where you define the order that everybody goes in at the beginning of combat. Your dex bonus gets added to your initiative roll, bumps you further up that list and lets you attack earlier. That's always a good thing. Second, it boosts your AC, your armor class, which is how hard it is for something to hit you. We'll talk later about attack rolls and how that works with AC, but just know that it's a very good thing. You might not be able to wear big heavy plate mail to absorb those sword hits, but Dex allows you to just dodge them instead. Miss for an attack is either you have dodged it, or it has hit you and it doesn't have an effect. That's how a miss is defined in this game. It doesn't mean you have literally swung and completely missed this giant ogre that you're trying to swing your little sword at. It's also the effectiveness of your hit. So it also defines how well and how hard you hit somebody with finesse and ranged weapons. Things like daggers, rapiers. These are finesse instead of martial weapons. You use them very delicately to stab with instead of just bludgeoning someone. So your dex bonus is also applied to any acrobatics, sleight of hand, and stealth checks. Next, constitution. This is your health. This one's pretty important to every class. So each class has a hit die, like a d4, d6, d8, d10, d12. You roll that to determine how many hit points you have at the beginning of each level when you level up. Or in this game, I think it takes the average for that hit dice. But your constitution bonus gets added to that at each level. And if that constitution ever goes up, you go back and retroactively put those hit points on there for each level that you have gained. There's no skill checks associated with constitution, but at least in the tabletop game, if not in Baldur's Gate 3, there are a ton of saving throws that are tied to constitution. Things like poison resistance. So constitution, big one for every class. Next up, intelligence. That's your primary stat for the wizard. It's going to define your chance to hit, as well as your save DC on your spells, and how many spells you have prepared for a day. Going to get into those chance to hit, spell casting stuff in a later video, probably the next one. But that's what's going to define how effective your spells are going to be. Intelligence is also the bonus for checks on history, arcana, investigation, nature, and religion. Wisdom is the primary stat for the cleric, and it controls your spellcasting rolls for both the cleric and the ranger. Again, we're going to get to those spell saves in the next video, but where intelligence is thought of as how much you've learned, how much you can recall that memory, how good you are at problem solving and reasoning, wisdom is more how in tune you are with nature and the world, how perceptive you are, and your intuition. The skills that benefit from wisdom are animal handling, insight, medicine, perception, and survival. And the last ability is charisma. Now, charisma is a spellcasting ability for warlocks, and it plays a role in a ton of skill checks and dialogues. Deception, intimidation, performance, and persuasion all come down to your charisma bonuses, and these seem to show up a lot in Baldur's Gate 3 as it currently sits. So, with the basics explained, let's talk about those bonuses. Now, in 5th edition, your bonus is defined as the ability score minus 10 divided by 2 and round it down. But realistically, what this means is that to get your bonus, you do it on even numbers. In this game, there is no difference between a 12 and a 13, or a 16 and a 17. You use these bonuses for everything, and the actual ability score doesn't matter that much. So, anytime you can, go for an even number. If that means dropping one out of Constitution right here to get you to a 12, you keep your bonus on that. Drop that 15 down to a 14, you keep your bonus on that, but you now have more ability points to spend to get you up in Dexterity, say. Get an extra bonus point out of that. We're going to work on those even numbers, not worrying about odd numbers. Save your points. You can spend them later when you level up at level 4 and more in later levels as they're added. But I'd say focus on even numbers. So what these bonuses are, they get added in on attacks, on saves, and on skill checks. And now that you know how that's derived and can think more about how you want to build a character, we're going to go look at spellcasting and attacks in our next video.